If you were to die in the next 5 minutes, would you go to be present with the Lord?
Wow, that's an aggressive way to start.
It is, isn't it? It just bypasses all the small talk and goes straight for the jugular.
Yeah, no, how are you?
Yeah.
Just straight to the existential crisis.
Exactly. But welcome back to another deep dive. Today we're looking at a set of sources, theological texts, really, that ask that question for a very specific reason.
Right. They're not just trying to scare you. They claim to have this structural analysis of the human condition that proves most of us are getting the answer wrong.
And we really need to set the stage here because the worldview in these texts is so different from our modern one.
Oh, completely. I mean, you go to almost any university, you scroll social media, and the default assumption is that people are, intrinsically good.
A little broken, maybe, or products of a bad environment.
Sure, but good at the core. These texts, they take that idea and just toss it.
They call it a fundamental lie, which is why we're doing this deep dive. We want to unpack the machine behind that claim, how sin works, what this idea of a reprobate mind is.
And then what the gospel actually means in a sort of technical legal sense.
So this isn't going to be a feel-good session. This is about why these texts argue your inner light might actually be darkness. Let's get into it. Where does it all start?
Well, according to one of the key texts, Ephesians, you don't really get here. You arrive here.
You mean at birth?
At birth. The text says people are born dead in trespasses and sins, and then it uses this incredibly heavy phrase.
Which is?
By nature, the children of wrath.
By nature. That's the kicker.
It is, because it implies the problem isn't just your behavior, it's your spiritual biology. The default setting is opposition to God.
That sounds so incredibly unfair, though, doesn't it? I mean, if you're born with a default setting you didn't choose, how is that your fault? Is it just an ignorance problem? People just don't know any better.
You'd hope so, right? If it's ignorance, the fix is easy. You just need more information.
A seminar.
Exactly. But Romans chapter 1, which is really the backbone of this whole argument, slams that door shut. It says ignorance is not the excuse.
How can it not be? If you don't know, you don't know.
Well, the text claims you do know. It says the invisible things of God, his eternal power, his divine nature, are clearly seen.
Seen where?
In creation. The argument is that the universe itself is this giant, screaming billboard for God's existence, and nobody can actually miss it.
So even someone who has never heard of these texts is, according to this argument, seeing the evidence.
Yes. The phrase used is without excuse. So the problem isn't a lack of a signal, the problem is the receiver.
And this brings us to this idea of suppression, right?
Exactly. The text says they hold the truth in unrighteousness, but the notes really emphasize the original Greek here. It's an active thing.
Like holding a beach ball underwater.
That's the perfect analogy. The truth, the beach ball wants to surface, and buoyant, but you are actively, with your own will, holding it down.
But why? Why spend energy suppressing the truth?
Because this truth comes with an implication of authority. If there's a creator, then you're the creature. You're not the boss.
And people don't like that.
The human heart, by nature, hates that. It refuses to glorify him as God or even be thankful.
So ungratefulness is the first crack in the foundation.
It's where the rot starts. You refuse to acknowledge the source, and then the whole slide begins. The text says their foolish heart was darkened, they became vain in their imaginations.
Vain as in futile, empty thinking.
Empty thinking, yeah. If you reject the first principle of reality, that God exists, then all your other logic, no matter how brilliant, is built on a faulty foundation.
And that's what leads to what the notes call the Great Exchange.
Right, they change the truth of God into a lie. But look at what they replace it with. They become idolaters. They start to worship the creature, not the creator.
That list in the text is wild. It goes from manso, humanism, self-worship, all the way down to birds and beasts and creeping things.
It's a devolution. You trade the infinite God for bugs. The source argues it's a deliberate policy of evil to degrade humanity by severing that divine connection.
So this is an active intellectual rebellion.
Precisely. And in any kingdom, a rebellion gets a reaction. And that brings us to probably the most uncomfortable part of this whole discussion.
The wrath of God.
The wrath of God.
Yeah, let's unpack that. Because wrath sounds emotional, like a God losing his temper.
That's the common idea, but it's not what the text is describing. Here, it's judicial. It's a revealed, necessary consequence. Think of it like a law of spiritual physics.
If you jump off a building, gravity reacts.
Exactly. If you suppress God's truth, his wrath reacts. It's the just settling of accounts. And the way it happens is It's chilling. It isn't a lightning bolt. It's God letting go.
The 3 give-ups.
Yes. 3 times in this chapter it says God gave them up.
Which is terrifying because it looks like freedom.
It's exactly what they asked for. You want to live without me? Okay, here you go. The restraints are off.
So let's walk through them. Stage 1.
Stage 1. God gave them up to uncleanness. This is internal. It's about dishonoring your own body through your lusts. It's a self-degradation.
It starts inside. What's stage 2?
Stage 2, he gave them up unto vile affections. This is where it moves from the internal to the relational. And here, we have to be clear, we're just reporting what the source says.
Okay.
The text cites women exchanging the natural use for what is against nature and men burning in lust for one another.
So it's explicitly referencing homosexuality.
It is. And the theological argument here, again, we're not taking a political side, just analyzing the text logic, is that the design of male and female is part of that creation billboard we talked about.
Part of the evidence.
Right. And when a society rejects the creator, it eventually rejects the design he embedded in their own bodies. The text presents this as a judicial signpost, a recompense of their error.
A consequence of suppressing the truth.
Yes. It's a sign that the giving up has gone deeper.
Yeah.
And that leads to the 3rd and final stage, the bottom of the spiral.
The reprobate mind.
Yeah. The word reprobate means disapproved or tested and found useless.
Like a compass that no longer points north.
That's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
A reprobate mind has lost its moral compass. It calls evil good and good evil. It does things that are not convenient, which just means not fitting for a human being.
So you're not just breaking the rules anymore, you can't even see them.
Exactly. And you take pleasure in watching others break them too. It's a complete moral inversion.
Okay, but I can hear someone listening right now thinking, this is intense, but I'm not doing those things. I still know right from wrong. I'm a good person.
And that is the trap. The source calls it the trap of universal guilt. Because right after describing that final stage, the text drops a list of sins that is basically a dragnet.
I saw that list. It catches everyone.
It does. It has the big ones like murder and wickedness,
right.
But then it gets so specific. Whisperers,
gossip,
backbiters, proud, boasters,
disobedient to parents. That one always stands out. It puts being a rebellious kid on the same list as being a hater of God.
It does. And deceit. Have you ever lied? Covetousness, ever wanted something that wasn't yours? The point is that the symptoms may look different, but the disease, the rebellious heart, is the same.
So the office gossip is operating from the same corrupt source code as someone in the more extreme stages?
That's the argument. And the verdict is the same for all of them.
Worthy of death.
That's the line. Knowing the judgment of God, that they which commit such things are worthy of death.
This is where it gets heavy. Because if you accept the premise, there's no escape hatch, we're all guilty.
And that's when we try to build our own escape hatch, the good person fallacy. We try to justify ourselves by our works.
I'll do better. I'll balance the scales.
Right, but the text just dismantles that. It says, you want to be judged by works. Fine. The standard is absolute perfection.
Patient continuance in well-doing.
Meaning you never once slip up from birth until death.
Yeah.
Which is impossible for anyone who's already on that list.
You've already failed.
The crime's already on the books. And what about the other classic defense? Well, at least I'm not as bad as that guy.
The judge trap.
Right. The text asks, do you think when you judge others and do the same things that you will escape the judgment of God? By judging, you prove you know the law, which makes you even more guilty for breaking it.
You're condemning yourself with your own words. So what's the point of the law then? Why give us a standard we can't possibly meet?
That's the key. The function of the law, according to these texts, isn't a ladder to climb up. It's a muzzle.
A muzzle.
Romans 3.19, that every mouth may be stopped and all the world may become guilty before God. The law exists to shut you up, to remove every excuse, to leave you standing silent and guilty.
Wow. That is a bleak picture. The entire human race, silent, guilty, awaiting a death sentence.
That's the bad news. And the sources are clear. Until you really truly understand how bad the bad news is, the good news doesn't make any sense.
But there's a pivot. The text says, but now.
But now the righteousness of God without the law is manifested. This is the gospel. The impossible problem has an external solution.
Which is?
It's a substitute.
Yeah.
And the text uses this very dense technical word that is the absolute hinge of the whole argument. Propitiation.
Right. Break that down for us. What does propitiation mean?
In simple terms, it means satisfaction. Specifically, the satisfaction of justice.
So it's the answer to that wrath problem.
It is the only answer. that judicial wrath against sin had to be poured out.
Yeah.
Justice demanded it. God couldn't just say, oh, never mind.
And the claim is that it was poured out on Jesus Christ.
That's the claim. That God set him forth to be a propitiation, the one who would absorb the full penalty that every whisperer and hater of God deserved.
So the debt is paid.
Paid in full.
Yeah.
The resurrection, the notes say, is the receipt. It's the proof that the payment was accepted.
So this just changes everything. It's no longer about what you do. It's not about trying to be good enough.
It's about what you believe. It's a free gift. You don't earn a gift. You don't work for it. You just receive it.
Let's be clear on believe, though. It's not just agreeing that something is historically true, is it?
No, not at all. The sense of the word is reliance. It's trust. It's the difference between believing a parachute will work and actually jumping out of the plane with it on.
So it's abandoning trust in your own goodness.
Completely. It's admitting your own righteousness is, to use the text's graphic term, a dung-pile, and transferring all your trust onto Christ's perfect record instead of your own.
That's a huge blow to the ego.
It's meant to be. That's why another text says it's not of works, lest any man should boast. You can't take credit for being rescued from a burning building. You just say thank you.
So for the person listening who does this, who accepts this, what actually changes for them?
3 massive things change about their status. First, you have peace with God.
The war is over.
The war is over. The wrath is gone. Second, you are standing in grace. That's your new permanent address. It's not a place you visit. It's where you live.
And the third?
You can rejoice in hope of the glory of God, which brings us all the way back to the beginning.
If you were to die in the next 5 minutes.
For the person who is trusted in this propitiation, the answer is no longer a terrified guess. It's a settled reality. Their entry into heaven is based on Christ's payment, not their performance.
But there's a real sense of urgency in these texts, isn't there? It's not a think about it for a few years kind of offer.
Not at all. The source material is incredibly urgent. It literally says, you don't know whether or not you will die within the next 5 minutes. It's a call for an immediate decision.
It's such a radical framework. You are far worse off than you ever imagined, but the solution is far simpler and more available than you ever dared to hope.
That's the paradox. The worst news you've ever heard, followed by the best news you could ever hear.
And it leaves you with a really challenging thought. We spend our lives building up this resume of being a good person. We compare ourselves to others, trying to stay ahead.
And this whole argument calls that resume worthless. Worse than worthless.
Yeah, it forces you to ask, if my very best efforts are considered filthy rags by a perfectly holy God, why am I still trying to patch them together?
It suggests maybe the goal isn't to try harder to be good. Maybe the goal is to stop trying and just trust the only one who ever was.
It's a powerful challenge. Agree with it or not, the logic within the system is it's completely sealed. You're either under wrath or you're in grace. There's no third option.
No middle ground.
That is a lot to think about. We'll leave you with that. Thanks for diving in with us today.
See you next time.